Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Wednesday, June 15th in the Locker Room. I'm Alan Locher. Gregori J. Martin is a two-time Emmy Award-winning director, a five-time Emmy Award-winning producer, four-time Emmy-nominated writer, and the founder, CEO, and chairman of LANY Entertainment. He is best known to daytime audiences as the creator, director, and showrunner of the original digital drama series, The Bay, seen on multiple streaming services such as Amazon Prime, Popstar TV, Tubi, 10 Play Australia, Peacock, and more. The Bay alone has won 23 Daytime Emmy Awards and has been nominated 56 times. I'm sure you'll be excited to hear that The Bay has just completed production on their 7th and 8th season. In addition to The Bay, Gregory has been nominated for his work on the Pop TV situation family comedy This Just In, where he served as a director, writer, and co-executive producer for 2 seasons. A 10-part spinoff of The Bay called YA, a young adult limited drama series he co-wrote and co-directed, is currently in post-production with a release date hopefully later this year. In addition to YA in The Bay under LANY Entertainment, he recently wrapped a new horror romance by an acclaimed writer, as well as a feature film holiday drama, The Magic, starring Kristos Andrews and Latin sensation Alejandra Espinoza. Please welcome to the Locker Room, Gregori J. Martin. Hey, Gregory.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
You're very welcome. We've been doing stuff to promote The Bay, but, I love talking to folks who help create these fan favorites. So, I understand you were born and raised in Yonkers, New York.
I was born and raised in Yonkers, New York. I haven't been back in a long time, but yes.
What stands out from your childhood there?
What stands out from my childhood there? I think family. I mean, just we were, my family's very family oriented, and so I spent a lot of time with family. We had our, every Friday we did one thing, and every Saturday we did another, and it was just kind of like a constant routine with my family. And my mom was the best mom in the world, and she just kept us really close, and we did, the family thing was a really big part of my childhood. So,
do you still have family there?
Oh yeah, they're all there. Most of them are there. Actually, my mom moved out, and my sisters, they all live in different states, but all my cousins and my aunts and uncles, and they're all still in Yonkers. So,
and you are of Italian and Puerto Rican descent. Is Yonkers one or the other, or a mix?
Actually, it's both. Greg was, my biological father. His family is all there, and then my family, my mom's family, they're the Puerto Rican side, and they're all there. My parents met in Yonkers, New York. So.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you for yourself, do you identify more as Italian, Puerto Rican? What's your...
Well, I am 50-50. I think I identify more as Puerto Rican because that's just how I grew up. My Puerto Rican family was a lot more welcoming. They were more embracive to us, and just the culture and everything was just so much, richer for me growing up. The Italian...
You just missed the parade.
I know. Yeah. I definitely identify as both, but I think I know a lot more about my Puerto Rican roots. It's just, I'm great. I love both, but definitely I would say I identify more as Puerto Rican. Yeah.
So. Have you been able to film any of your many shows in Puerto Rico?
Yes, actually, that was a big goal of mine. We just shot this season 7 and 8 in Puerto Rico for The Bay, so it was pretty exciting, and to be there. I went out there with Kristos. He did a movie called "Survive the Game" out there with director James Cullen Bressick, and and it was wonderful with Bruce Willis. It was actually one of Bruce Willis's last films, and it was wonderful to be out there.
Oh, wow.
I just got super inspired. We went out there in, I think it was February or March of 2000. And when was that? Was it 2000? Yeah, I'm sorry, 2020. It might have been 2020. Yeah. And then a few months, or was it 2021? I'm kind of losing track of the time. COVID, yeah. But
a lot of people.
A few months later, we just went, like, I just decided I'm going to shoot season 7, and which turned into season 8 as well, of The Bay out there. And it was just amazing. It was just great. The content hasn't been released yet, but we have tons of episodes for fans to watch. And I would say about 50% of the content was shot in Puerto Rico.
Wow, that's great. We shot Guiding Light there in '99 for a week, and it was incredible.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
It was quite the trip.
That's so cool. Actually, Wendy Rich, when she did General Hospital, they shot it in Puerto Rico too. They shot a whole big segment.
Was that while Ricky was on the show?
Ricky Martin, and they brought up.
So that makes complete sense.
Yeah. So she didn't go with us to Puerto Rico, but she and I wrote all the content, and she, we invited her to be part of it, but she was just kind of being really careful with COVID, so she didn't want to come out there, and but she was completely part of the process the whole time.
Well, we'll talk a little more about season 7 and 8 in a minute, but the cast must have surely enjoyed that location.
Oh yeah, they sure did. Yeah, we had quite a few actors. Obviously, our 2 leads, Kristos and Carucci, were there, and the whole storyline kind of revolves around this.
What happened at the end of 6? Right?
Yes, yeah. So it's like, kind of. I don't want to give too much away. I'm not. I don't like spoilers.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't like spoilers for myself either. If I'm watching.
You left us hanging on that one.
Yeah. So
that was a great ending. That was a great ending. I understand you were introduced to Santa Barbara and Dynasty at a very young age. What do you remember? Who in the family introduced you?
Santa Barbara is probably my overall favorite show, period. Like of any show that I've ever watched. I'm talking about like anything. I think it's still like pretty amazing. Like just and that was my babysitter, actually, named Sarah. And she introduced me to the show, and we would race home from school because it played at 3:00, and she would just kind of race us home to watch it, and it was a really cool show, and I loved it, and inspired me to create the character of Sarah, which was loosely inspired by Robin Wright's character, Kelly, and that was great. And still, I'll watch like old episodes of Santa Barbara on YouTube, and then Dynasty was an event every Wednesday night. We'd go to one of my aunt's house, Rosetta. My mom and my aunt Rosetta were really close, and so we would go there every Wednesday night, and they would watch Dynasty. I remember there were times where they wouldn't let us watch it, but then eventually, as we got older, they would be like, "Okay, fine, you can watch it." And then it was always kind of like that show. It's like, well, when can I watch Dynasty? Because it was like the forbidden show to watch when we were kids. And then as it got a little older, my mom let me watch it, let my sisters and I watch it, and it was just another really, really cool, fabulous show. So
I loved Dynasty. Didn't watch much Santa Barbara. I mean, I did see some, but I mean, Dynasty, I was hooked. And as a gay man, the talk of, a gay kiss happening, I'm sure was, a lot of the draw for, a young teenager. Talk about your path to Hollywood. Did you have internships along the way? Like, what was your intent?
Yeah, I thought I wanted to be an actor. And so I was doing the acting thing in New York. And that was kind of how it all began. And I started to do like PA work. And
was the acting a result of watching these shows, or was there, what drove you to that first?
It's so funny because the thought of being in entertainment has so far in my head that I don't even remember the starting point. It was literally, I know that as a kid, I would always say, um, I would think I was a producer. I would think I was an actor. I would, and I would get up on, the coffee table and do like a sermon, a church sermon for my family as a priest. It was, but it was always part of my life. Like I never, like the Bay, for instance, it wasn't called the Bay, but these characters, when I would watch Santa Barbara, I would draw the images, draw these characters and create stories. And then and sometimes I would act them out with my sisters. And it was just always in my head, in my thoughts. And then in my little kid head, I kind of believed it was all true. And I just I made it a reality, as I got older. But it was always kind of it was always in my head. It was always kind of my dream to do. And and when I was old enough, I would actually take the camcorder. I had a camcorder and I would make all of my relatives act, and we would do scenes, and we would create soap operas and movies and horrors and all these things. Growing up, I'd make all of my relatives act. and they would do it, and I would get really angry at them if they did it wrong, and they'd have to do it again. And it was just it was just my thing. And then eventually I just went out there and started auditioning in New York and the Backstage newspaper. And I started doing some theater, and I got involved with a theater group called Youth Theater Interactions, and started meeting people and became a PA and did some extra work. And it all kind of went from there.
And Another World was while you were still in New York.
Yeah, I was 90. It was like either 97, 98. It was whatever.
Because the show went off June of 99. So yeah, it had to be. And what do you remember about your experience at Another World?
I only did a very few amount of days there, but it was just it was fun being there. It was exciting to because I was a fan of the show. I followed Jensen Buchanan. I was a big fan of One Life to Live, actually. My family, they were ABC guys, girls, and they would watch all three shows, All My Children, One Life to Live, and General Hospital. And we would fight for the TV between General Hospital and Santa Barbara until it went off the air. But and I was a big One Life fan, and so I watched. So I was a really big fan of Max and Gabrielle and Tina and Cord and Bo and Sarah, and so I loved Jensen Buchanan as Sarah, and so I followed her over to Another World when she went and replaced Anne Heche, and so being there was a fun experience. That was so short-lived, but I made a lot of friends there, and then when I created the Bay, I cast a lot of them. So, yeah.
How did you end up in California?
That came through actually a good buddy of mine who was also in daytime, Michael Saucedo, was in this pilot I did with Lisa Brown. So Lisa and I worked on a pilot called Waterfront, which was the Bay. It was another version of the Bay, these characters that I created. And it was Maria Messina and Lisa.
Ah.
Yeah. And we did this pilot called Waterfront. And Lisa invited me to, I think I met Lisa through Dan Hamilton. I don't know if you remember Dan.
Yeah, Hamilton. I remember Dan, of course. Yeah.
And so, and then we started to use the guiding light stages as our rehearsal. And it was, I don't know if we were allowed to do that, but we were doing that.
I probably passed you in the hall.
Yes. And
because I remember Lisa being there all the time working on projects.
Yeah. We were one of those projects. And so she was directing it. I wrote it, created it. And then we ended up going to a St. Jude's benefit with that was Martha Byrne would host. She did it every year at the Marriott. And so I went there, and there were all these soap stars there. And I knew Michael Saucedo from General Hospital as a fan, because I watched GH, and I had a role for him in this pilot. And I was like, oh, he'd be perfect for this. And actually Becky too, his wife, and she wasn't available to do it, but I cast him. And then we just became friends. And then eventually he just kept pushing me to come out here. And he's like, you have to come out. And John, I don't know if you know who John Huertas is, but he's on This Is Us. And
oh yeah,
and
he played Miguel. He played Miguel.
Yeah, totally. And so they were both kind of like, they were just kind of really inspiring me to come out. And they were like, you should really come out here. There's a ton of opportunities. And Michael was trying to help me get some jobs. And then he did. He got me a job on GH, or he helped get the job at GH, him and Becky. And then, but they were just kind of pushing me to come out. And so I did. And I had this goal to like produce a movie while I was out here. And I had like a job as a cop on General Hospital for like half a year. And that's when I realized I really don't want to do the acting, because it wasn't my thing. But that's just kind of how it all started. And then
I wanted to say, because you were talking about, how much you would put it out into the universe of what you wanted to do,
right?
Which I think can be so powerful. And for you, it really was.
Oh yeah.
You knew so early what you wanted to do with your life, that you just always, you were filming things, you were talking about it, you basically thought you were an actor, director, producer, so I think that's great. People need to, put it out into the universe, those things. Before we go on, because I didn't realize the Lisa Brown connection, talk about Lisa, and working with her. What was that like? Had you known her at all as an actress? Did you see her on either show?
No, I actually never watched. I did watch, because I was a big fan of Fiona Hutchison. I did watch clips of Guiding Light, or scenes of Guiding Light. Kind of, I think I because at the time we had VCR, so we would record it, and I would record every once in a while. I would record an episode of Guiding Light and then watch, like, fast forward through it, because I wanted to see Fiona Hutchison. But I never saw. I might have seen something of Lisa Brown. I knew who she was. Like when Dan introduced me to her, I knew exactly who she was. But I wasn't really familiar with her work. She was amazing. I think very. We had a difficult time getting along, to be honest. But she was. It was just creative.
Different ideas, creative differences. Yeah,
creative differences, but looking at it now, I was just a kid at the time. I was 21 years old or something, maybe even younger. She's just very passionate. She's very passionate of and she knew what she wanted. And she was, I really appreciate who she was as an artist, because because of her passion and how she was very strong in her opinions, and she was very loyal to the process of getting it done. And she would travel to Yonkers to come see me and meet with me, and she was great. She was really great.
Yeah, that she definitely scared a lot of people. It was that passion. I think it was just, she was passionate about this business, like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Totally dedicated. As I mentioned in the intro, and we talked a little about season 7 and 8 of The Bay are completed already. Take me back, because you were talking about the early idea with what you were working with Lisa on was the idea for The Bay. Talk about the genesis, and then about the Kickstarter campaign that helped initially get it off the ground.
Wow. Yes. I'm so grateful for that.
It is amazing, isn't it? What you can do.
It is. It's so amazing and beautiful. And the fans are amazing, and I'm so grateful for them, because they helped shape this show in the early. After they still help shape the show, but their involvement financially is what kind of kicked us off into becoming a real thing. it was like I said, I had this character in mind as a kid, and Sarah, and I would develop these synopsises and would draw these images, and as from the age of 7 until I became an adult, and when I got into the film industry, after getting my job at GH and just kind of really networking with a bunch of people, and I met my mentor Jerry Kessler, who kind of took me under his wing, and he financed a bunch of my films. It's a really long story, but I got really fortunate to have this human in my life who was like a dad to me, and he financed a bunch of my movies, and I would cast soap stars to be in the movies because that's who I knew. I knew a lot of folks in the soap world,
and they can do the job,
and they can certainly do the job, and beautiful. So it was great, and Tristan told me there was a category at the Emmys for web content, and I hadn't done a web series, and he said, you should try it. And so I said, well, what am I going to do in my head? And I decided, well, why don't I just take this old story that I had as a soap opera, these characters of Sarah and the people around her, and create this show. And I met Kristos around that time, and cast him as the young kid because he was only 19. And then I didn't know what to call it, and I wanted to kind of pay homage to Bay, Another World. So I called it the town Bay City. And then I said, well, why don't we call it A View from the Bay, which was the book that Linda Dano's character created on the Bay. And Kristos was like, why don't you just call it the Bay? So we researched to see if the name was available, and it was. And then we created the Bay, and it was.
I love everything about this story. And Candice Mack just said, I love Gregori, a huge influence on my life.
Well, thank you, Candice. And I think you're wonderful, and everything that you do is fabulous, and keep doing it. And I'm a big fan of yours.
Now, Sarah, I know is based sort of on Robin Wright, but that name did you get that from your babysitter? Was it your babysitter?
Yeah, it was a combination between her and Jensen's character on One Life. So
gotcha. Yep. What's Sarah's full name on One Life?
Sarah Gordon. She was
Sarah Gordon.
Yeah, and ours is Sarah Garrett.
Yeah. That must be before. Like, I don't really recall that character much. I mean, I don't know a lot about One Life, but I know a lot of the characters. I know Jensen from her Another World days. What are you willing to tease about the new seasons?
Well, it's
besides Puerto Rico.
Yeah, you'll have a lot more episodes. And
that's good. That's always good.
And Sarah is there. We brought back. I can tell you. I won't tell you the length. How the characters involved, but we did in the original concept. Speaking of One Life, I was a big fan of Jake and Megan, and so I cast Joe Lando to play.
Oh wow.
Lee in the early stages of the Bay.
Joe was on Guiding Light, I believe, too.
Yes, he was. Yes, and so we brought Joe Lando back for these episodes, and that's kind of a little spoiler. I don't think many people know that. We have a lot of most of the characters are back. I would say about 80% are back from the original season. Whether they're dead or alive, you'll have to see. But we do have most of the cast coming back. Yeah, I don't know what else to say without giving anything away. But
we're not going to mention the person we talked about before.
Who was the person we talked about?
I won't say because I don't want to.
Okay.
The one I connected you with.
Oh yes. We can mention him. Yes, Nicholas Walker, who he plays Adam Kenway's lawyer. I forgot the name of the character now. Richard. Yes. But I was also a fan of anyone who was on One Life to Live. I was a fan of, and he was on One Life to Live, and so he came on to play a great character. I loved working with him, and he was wonderful. He brought a lot more to the page than what I wrote for the character. But he plays Richard, who forgot the character's last name now, but he's Adam Kenway, and Steve Jensen, played by Matt Ashford. He's their lawyer, so he represents the crooked folks in Bay City.
I love Nicholas. This is a busy 2 weeks for me for One Life to Live fans, meaning yourself, and next week I'm interviewing Ron Carlivati.
Oh yes.
Who got to start there. So and what like you was a huge One Life to Live fan. So it's so interesting what for all of us being a fan and what road it leads you down.
Oh, totally. You'd be surprised at how many people in the entertainment industry are massive, soap fans who they grew up. I mean, it's kind of like the sport for women, audiences. It's kind of like baseball is like the sport for men, or football, and those were always big events. And the same thing with soaps. Growing up in the 60s and 50s, 60s, 70s. 80s, it was a big part of American culture. So
it was 3 networks. It was the only choices. But you are of the Bay, creator, head writer, director, executive producer, and showrunner. Is there a role you love most?
I think writing and directing is my favorite. I can't.
Which is harder?
I don't think either are hard. I think they're both. I'm so excited to do. I would say directing is probably harder because of our restrictions, because we are working with a limited budget, and we have to get our days in. So directing in that aspect would be harder because I have to make sure, if I have 16 pages to shoot in a day, that we only have a 12-hour day, and it's not like you're in a studio where it's all pre-lit and everything's set with the 3 cameras. We do shoot multi-camera, which is great. That helps us a lot. But we're not, and sometimes we are in a studio because we have our studio in Burbank, but and most of the show was shot in a studio in Burbank. The 50 we weren't in Puerto Rico was shot. A good portion of it was shot there. But it's different because we're on location a lot. The multi-camera does help a lot get our coverage when we are shooting like all of these pages. Sometimes we shoot 20 pages in a day, which is it's very similar to the way they do it with soaps, where we shoot both actors at the same time for coverage, and then we'll shoot tighter. We'll shoot the same thing again, but tighter, just so that we have more coverage to choose from. But I would say directing is harder in that aspect. The writing is usually a breeze because I work with Wendy, and she's fabulous, and she inspired me so much with her. When I watched her on her work on General Hospital and all that greatness that she brought to that show, and so she's wonderful.
Yeah, I was very impressed with her. I really didn't know Wendy, and when I interviewed her, I just loved, sort of how she saw, the vision and what she, I remember vividly the conversation we had talking about, she got there and she was talking to the actors, which, executive producers don't always do, in the sense of trying to find out everything they can to know about the character that those actors know best.
Oh yeah. She's told me some wonderful stories that I've actually learned a lot how to deal with actors. Most of my closest friends are actors. Obviously Kristos and the D'Ambrosios are really close to me. I'm really close to them, and Mike Manning and Brandon Beamer and Precious, and obviously Celeste, and they're really good friends.
Absolutely. Well, speaking, you mentioned you met Kristos when he was really young, late teen. How did you first meet, and what makes your friendship and this now partnership work so well?
I think he's the best actor in the world. He's wonderful. He's just so dedicated, and so I want to cast him in everything because I know that he's going to go, beyond what he needs to deliver and make it epic. He's just that serious about his craft. He's no joke. I don't know if people understand the process of what he does to get into a character, but he gives it his entire all. He's never chatting on the sidelines, making loose conversations, and when he's delivering, he is the character, and it really helps me because I give him very little direction because I know how he works. And in everything, he started, when he first started, he was very green, and he just became better and better and better and better because he took it so serious. And that helps. That's what helps our working relationship work. But we're really in sync creatively. And that also helps. We pretty much have the same vision a lot of times. We met at his mom's art gallery and 13 years ago, and the rest is history, so
that's awesome. Adam is the second character he plays, correct?
Right. Yes, Adam Kenway, and he's great. It's funny how you'll get a lot
more of him.
Oh yes. I don't even know which character you have more of, either Pete or but you do have a lot of Adam, and it's really kind of diabolical and insane, and it's so fun to write because we can do anything with Adam. He's just wild.
Well, that makes it fun. Fun to write for sure. What are you most proud of with LANY Entertainment?
I would say my latest movie. I love The Magic. The Magic was a great film. I did that with Kristos and the D'Ambrosios. That was wonderful, and also Precious Mays, who's our producing partner. But that was a great film. You can watch it on Amazon Prime, and I know we're going to have more distribution coming up for Christmas. But I would say the new film that we just completed. I did it with Precious and Kristos and Mike Manning, but that new film, I can't say much about it because we have an exclusive that we have to kind of, I can't really share anything with it. But it's a horror romance. It's written by a very famous writer, and it was something I grew up with, and it's my best work. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, so.
I love that. Well, let's come back. Let's do something with everybody.
Yes, yeah, it's a single camera, shot at single camera. This time we do a lot of multi-camera, but this one is a single camera, and we just wrapped like less than 2 weeks ago, and it was really intense and beautiful. It's a period piece. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you talked a little about Wendy. You met Wendy at General Hospital?
No. Wendy was gone from General Hospital many, many years. When I was there, it was Jill Farren-Phelps. She was the EP on that show, and but I was a fan of Wendy's work back in the 90s. When we like I said, I watched Santa Barbara. Mm-hmm. When Santa Barbara was canceled in '93, it was a year earlier. Wendy had taken over at General Hospital.
Right. Yep.
And so there was no more Santa Barbara to watch. So I started watching General Hospital with my sisters, and was blown away by everything she was doing there. With obviously she brought us the Nurses' Ball. She brought us Sonny Corinthos. She brought us the AIDS storyline, Maxie's heart, BJ's heart.
Yeah.
I mean, just incredible storytelling. Dominique and Ryan Chamberlain, the crazy, Ryan. She brought all these wonderful things with her writing partners, Claire Labine, and then Guza afterwards, and Richard Cullington. But so she always had great writers, but she was the helm. She was the head honcho over there, and those years of Wendy Rich were just wonderful. She brought us back Luke and Laura. She was on her. She knew what she was doing. And I was a big fan. And Lily Melgar, who I cast, who I loved as she was Lily on General Hospital. I cast her as Janice on The Bay, and she introduced me to Wendy, and then we became great friends. And I had a meeting, and I tried to get her on the show, and she wasn't going to come on. She hates when I tell this story, but she was just busy. But I always say it took us winning several Emmys before she decided, okay, good enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So because
it worked.
Yes. So
and you did win a few. What is, the relationship like? What is it like? What is it like working with her? And what do you think you've learned about storytelling from her?
So much. I've learned so much for storytelling. She questions everything, which is wonderful, because if I ever have an idea, I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to do this. And she's like, why? I'm like, well, what do you mean? Because it sounds good. She's like, well, what's the end goal? So she keeps me on track to make sure I'm not just writing things for thrills, but I have an end goal. She's also really into like pulling on the heartstrings and getting to know the characters. She never interferes with my writing process. She allows me to write, and she allows me to do what I want to do, but she makes sure that I'm dotting all my I's and crossing all my T's. And that's important. That's what I've learned from her. Before I go off and write, she makes sure that I know exactly what I'm writing and why I'm writing it. And it's great. And she always keeps the integrity of the character, whatever characters. She's really big on that, and making sure that we're sticking to that we're not just doing things for thrills, but we're actually really telling a story. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Is there a dream daytime actor that you still want or continue to try to get for the Bay?
I have been really fortunate. Most of the actors that we reached out to the first time, they accept the Bay. There's very few actors that I had to go to a second actor or a third actor because the first one wasn't available. That's the great thing about the Bay. I think everybody wants to be a part of it, and I'm very grateful for that, because they know that they're going to walk away with some great material, and it looks amazing, and it's fun. They do things on the Bay that they wouldn't normally be cast as in daytime. So I've been really fortunate to get pretty much everyone that you see on screen as my first choice. I was always a fan of Lisa Peluso. She's not really acting these days, but
no, selling real estate in New Jersey.
She'd be wonderful on the show. And it's not a daytime person, but I would say Joan Collins or Susan.
She would be great.
Yes, or Susan Lucci.
She would be great. Or how about Robin Wright?
Robin Wright, no, not so much. But I was a fan of her as a kid, but not so much. She just kind of dwindled off. But no disrespect to her, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
She was not. That was just my childhood.
We change our childhood. We move on.
Yeah. So Susan Lucci, if you have to go for you have to go for the top. So.
Susan would be phenomenal.
Yes.
Absolutely. What is the hardest lesson you've learned sort of in the whole process of making the Bay?
I guess the most, if I'm just being honest, I think the Emmy process is probably very grateful for all the Emmys we received. But once you receive a certain amount of Emmys, then all this kind of nasty hate comes up that it's become so competitive and so like within the community that is probably the biggest turnoff. I would say that because you want to enjoy it. You're doing great work and you're being judged by the judges, and we do everything with like the utmost integrity. We never try to. But there's a really big competitive energy that goes out when you're going for Emmys that takes the fun away a lot. And, we just want to produce good work. So very grateful for all of our wins, and, we'll continue to submit for Emmys, but that's always kind of like a big, like, oh God, like how many people are going to hate us now? It's like,
that's not fun.
Within the community, obviously
right.
they're very loyal and they do everything that they can to support us. And then obviously we have a really big support system within that world too. But there is kind of that competitiveness that it just kind of takes the fun away. So
Ollie said Santa Barbara is one of his favorite soaps too.
Good.
What are you currently? Do you watch a lot of television?
I don't watch a lot of television. I want to watch more. There's all these shows on my list of shows that I have to watch. I have to watch the latest season of Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
But some of my favorite shows outside of daytime, I don't watch daytime anymore, but would be Black Mirror is a really good show. I don't know.
So good. And you hear it's coming back for a couple episodes?
That's so awesome. Yes,
yeah.
I did hear that. And Black Mirror.
Very original.
Yeah. But we watched some episodes of The Boys.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed that. I haven't started season 3 yet, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. And then, we go to all the FYC events and we'll see like episodes of different shows. But yeah, I would say, I haven't really watched a lot of TV lately, but The Boys is probably the latest one that we've been watching. So.
Do you watch with your kids?
Sometimes my son lives here. My daughter is living in Texas now. My son lives here in downtown. So he'll come over and he'll also try to show me like his favorite actor is Oscar Isaac.
Oh yeah.
He's trying to get me to watch that show, and so we watch a few of. I forgot the name of the show, Moonlight or something.
Oh, I don't know what show he's in. I know, I know has it been in the Star Wars things?
Yeah, totally.
So how old is your son?
He's 20. He's going to be 21. And
is he following in Dad's footsteps at all?
He is. He's great. He was one of the main producers on this last movie that I did, and he was wonderful. And my little brother actually just moved out here too from New York, and they live together in downtown.
Oh, that's cool.
He's now in the business too with me. I gave him a job as a PA on this last film, and he killed it. So yeah, they're both in it. So we'll see how long they last, but they like it. So.
Do you still have like a dream project that you've that's still in your back pocket that you'd love to get off the ground?
It's funny because every time I have a dream project, somebody does it before me. So I'm out of luck. But it was Dynasty was a dream project of mine, and then it was done, sort of. And then The Exorcist was a dream project of mine, but now they're doing it again. So, and Ellen Burstyn's coming back. So, but I always remember saying, I want their 50th anniversary, I'm going to do the remake. And here they are, they're doing the remake. So
I'm going to have, speaking of Dynasty, I'm going to interview John James in a couple weeks.
I have a call. I have a call with him today.
Oh, that's awesome. Tell him I said hello. Yeah, he was on As the World Turns for a little while.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I was a big Maxwell Caulfield fan. So it was Miles.
Miles Colby, right?
Yeah, they were brothers.
Miles.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I have not seen it in forever, so to remember some of those things, but man, that was a really good show.
Yeah, it sure was.
Right? I mean, like every week, Dynasty, like.
Oh yeah, it was viewership. You don't have viewership like that anymore. It's they had like 20 million viewers. It was.
Oh God, yeah.
It was.
Well, wasn't it? It was Dynasty in Dallas, and then Falcon Crest and Knots Landing, all relatively around.
Yeah.
Totally. Around the same time. Tell us about the 10-part spinoff of The Bay called YA. What can you?
Yeah, that's great. I'm super excited about that one. We're hoping it's released this year. We're looking for the right home for it. We shot 10 episodes. Actually 8. It's 8 episodes. We shot 10, but we just kind of condensed them, and we made the pilot episode really long. It's a spinoff of The Bay. You don't have to watch both shows to understand what's happening. It follows the D'Ambrosio twins, who you see on The Bay now. but they play Frankie and Reagan Sanders, and they're great in it. My son is a series regular in it. Kristos,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So Kristos and I co-directed it together. I wrote it with Wendy, and it's super exciting. It's kind of like 90210 meets 13 Reasons Why, and it's the parents are all kind of TV veterans like Jamie Luner and Vivica Fox and Jills Marini and Jacob Young, and of course Fiona Hutchison, who I mentioned earlier, plays Emma Nana. She's the Nana to the twins. But,
I could see that being quite good.
yes, so she's kind of this. Yeah, she's fun. She's great in it. And Eltony Williams from the Tyler Perry show, If Loving You Is Wrong, I think it's called. But it's great. I think the cast is wonderful. Young. It's they're all at they go to Bay City High. I forgot to mention Brad Mall is in it.
That's great.
So
fans love him.
Yeah. So there's that's going to be exciting. Ian Buchanan. I'm looking forward to that being released and seeing what the fan reaction is. If you're a fan of the Bay, you'll get all the pleasures of watching. You're in Bay City, so there's a lot of crossovers. Pete Garrett crosses over, and some of the other characters cross over. But you don't have to watch both shows to understand it. And it's a fun show. So,
how do you keep track of everything you're working on?
I'm just no sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you do.
No, I barely sleep, but it's great. I'm really grateful to everything, to everyone.
What is downtime for Gregori? What does that mean?
Really just hanging out with my friends and like having a couple drinks and just watching a movie or going to the beach or travel. Travel is great when I have time to travel. I usually combine my work with travel. So if there's a place that I want to visit, then I just write it into the script. so
Puerto Rico.
Yes, exactly. But
how long were you in Puerto Rico filming?
We were there for almost a month. It was it was amazing. I loved it. I can't wait to go back. Hopefully we'll do like a big premiere out there.
That was smart idea. Smart idea. Do you have a favorite place you've visited?
Well, I'm kind of like on a high with Ireland right now. Ireland was kind of blew me away. We just went out for an awards ceremony to Amsterdam, and we decided we had a layover flight in Ireland, and so we ended up extending the Ireland trip, the layover and made it into a few days. And everybody was so nice and carefree and fun and vibrant, and the city has so much culture and so beautiful. And watching these beautiful seagulls kind of fly over the city, and it's just amazing. I loved it. I really loved it. The food is great. It's very hearty, and but the people are just so beautiful. I would say Ireland right now. I'm on a high with Ireland.
I would love to go there. That's one place I have yet to visit. Amsterdam is where my parents were born, and
cool.
Tomorrow will be 10 years ago that I proposed to my husband there.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
In Amsterdam. But Amsterdam's a great city too.
Yeah, they had the very first gay marriage was in Amsterdam.
Recently?
No, I mean the very first gay marriage that ever in history.
Really?
Yes, that's what I learned on my cruise that was out there. So.
Oh wow. I'm gonna have to look that up. That's amazing.
Yeah.
The Daytime Emmy Awards are a week from Friday. You have 7 Emmys. Is there one that means the most to you?
I think my first. Well, no, actually, I love them all. I'm very grateful for. We always say that anytime we win an Emmy, it's like having another guardian angel in our lives, because they are angels, like a golden angel. The first one was very impactful in 2015. We had been working on the show for 5 years, and we were nominated once. So that year we got 3 nominations, and or maybe it was only one might have been just the one nomination for best show, and we won. I think that one was, I remember at that point, because we hadn't won an Emmy yet, the entire room was filled with support. I mean, I remember Judy Bly Wilson told me that everybody was rooting for us. That feeling was beautiful, to be in that room with, soap people that I grew up watching and then working with, and it just became, and 5 years of working on the Bay, I think that our first win was very, very, I remember kind of like collapsing, and Kristos pulled me up and was like, get up on stage, to do my speech. That one was really, really beautiful. And then after that, Kristos's first win was really, because all of his wins were amazing. But that one was really, really important to me. And then my first director win was really special. But everyone, anytime somebody wins on the Bay, it's just, it's very much celebrated.
It's like a cherry on the cake.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So.
Tim was asking, do places you travel inspire you to write?
Yeah, totally. That happens all the time. That happened with Puerto Rico. When I was out there, I was like, okay, I'm writing this next season in Puerto Rico. That's happening with Ireland right now. And the great thing is that we have so many Irish people, Irish Americans on the Bay, so we can create a whole story about why they're in Ireland. The Garretts it's an Irish family, and
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
So it's there's a lot that can be done. But yeah, totally.
Do you have a city you've been dying to go to?
Egypt, probably. I really want to go to Egypt. It's a country, but yes, Egypt is some place I really want to go. Spain, I really want to go to Spain, Barcelona. But Ireland was on the list, and I did that, so that was kind of on my bucket list. I'm really excited about that. I got that off my bucket list, but I still want to go back and do more. But yeah, so there's a lot of great places in the world that I still have to see.
Me too. Traveling's the best.
Yeah, totally.
The Yankees, your team?
Oh yes, totally. I'm a Yankee fan. I joke all the time. My brother's a Mets fan, and I like to tease him because he's always asking me if he could wear a hat, and so I have like 20 Yankee hats, and every time he asks me for a hat, I give him a Yankee hat to wear. So
I got stuck in like 2 hours of traffic coming home from the Bronx last Thursday. And somehow I ended up passing Yankee Stadium. I wasn't sure how it happened, but I did. The Google led me down the road. Gregori, it's so great to see you. Thank you for sharing your stories with, all of the fans. And thanks for spending the time here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure, and I hope
we'll do it again when the shows come out.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you so much,
my friend. Have a great afternoon.
And thanks, everyone. Yes, take care.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. Don't forget, you can watch The Bay on numerous streaming platforms. Keep an eye out for season 7 and 8, and keep an eye out for YA when it comes out later. Hopefully later this year. Tomorrow, Michelle Morgan from The Young and the Restless will join me live at 3 p.m. to discuss her most recent Emmy nomination. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and please stay safe.